be explored.
What you do is you keep them on this level until the renovation's done. Then when you start getting vendors up on this level, then you just move back to platforms like the good old days.
Yeah.
You know.
But then it could be like labor issues because then now you're bringing them back. Then how you get rid of them? And it's like we don't know if it's going to be worth the headache, but we're exploring it.
Well, 2,700 people are gonna, right, theoretically could lose their jobs. Just put everybody in the bar car.
Actually, Hector wants to bring back the old actual bar cars on the train, right?
Okay, I love the actual bar cars in the old days.
That's going way back.
And the smoking cars.
And the smoke, they were the same thing. You couldn't even see inside the bar cars.
All right, so anything else on Penn that we need to know?
Do you think by the end of the year is when they?
That's what I've heard as the last estimate, but
how is the work progressing? On time? Is it?
it's moving fast. That's what I hear. I don't know.
What's the opening date?
I know Moynihan is moving, so that's supposed to be done by around this time next year, before the end of next year. The Moynihan is supposed to be done.
What does Moynihan do for us?
It's gonna have more options of, vendors. I think actually we are gonna have some waiting rooms and stuff over there, like ticket windows and waiting rooms over there, so they'll have some space.
Yeah, that doesn't redistribute some of the crowding stuff potentially.
Because
on a bad night.
Even when we discussed this, I mean, years ago when it was first,
yeah.
it was never referred to as a transportation project. It was referred to as an economic development project. It was just happened to be at a train station, but it was, because we weren't getting any more track space, we weren't getting any more. It's just basically off.
Do you have any comments on the governor's comment that looking at getting longer railroad trains to move faster? Is that possible, or is that not a safe issue? Especially without positive train control.
Well, similar to what I did with transit, that we're looking at how.
Well, subways are not doing it. I saw he recently said he wants to expand it to.
The discussions to see how where it can be sped up.
Because aren't they're looking into civilian signals timing, right? Without going to the FRA because of the federal.
I know after that Metro North accident on the curve, I know on every curve we actually reduced our speeds and we did a lot of things. So I don't know if that's what they're looking at, but
some of the switches are slower speed switches, and you could possibly. I think they're looking at some of those to see if they can become high speed switches. I don't know on Long Island.
I mean, there's nothing like imminent. There's no imminent announcement of what we're going to do. We're just looking at.
So the announcement, the announcement that happened yesterday or 2 days ago, is in anticipation of a report that's supposed to come out at the end of the year from this task force. So
I think on our end, the discussions haven't been as advanced as.
Right. Well, it was already underway in transit.
Yeah.
And apparently there was initial conversation about the V factor, which is the side-by-side,
how much you jostle a person, like around a curve, sort of thing, like when you can.
I do have a Penn announcement. I just heard today that on Tuesday, the new Lost and Found is going to open. At the exit, Lost and Found.
Oh, good.
At the exit concourse, it's going to be a bigger space, more secure, and just more space to be able to do that. So
for transit and LIRR, just for.
I think for us, ours. So I think on Tuesday is going to be some type of announcement, or that's when it's going to open.
You want to go into Rockaway Beach?
Sure. What do you know about Rockaway Beach?
Just what we read in the paper.
It's a song from.
So the history is, I actually have a copy of, if you're interested, like a deed from like 1953, where the railroad turned it over to the city as part of some bankruptcy proceedings. So we gave that whole stretch between our main line in Regal Park, which is just west of Forest Hills, to like, is it Lefferts Boulevard or Rockaway Boulevard?
You have to look at the map.
That stretch is abandoned right of way, like kind of like the Highline was.
It would connect to the subway.
Yeah, and then south of there is actually where the air train runs currently. So since the city owns it, they have the subway, so the air train runs on that stretch. And before that, the history is that A train, that whole stretch, it actually was connected to our existing Far Rockaway station. It used to be a loop, apparently.
There was a loop?
There was a loop.
Okay, because I remember basically the
The
up till I guess
yeah, I've
whatever it
started
was,
over a few
52,
times.
53,
That's-
whatever. They actually ran regular long Island Railroad trains into the Rockaway Peninsula and each way, but I didn't know they ran.
It was a loop. It's disconnected now, the loop, but it was a loop.
There was a loop.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's why I think where the A train ends and our station ends is like a few blocks away.
Yeah, because I had to commute from there for a while.
So that there was a connection there
It's
at
like
one
2 or
time.
3 block walk between the end of the subway station and the Long Island Railroad station.
So I know that it's political.
So as part of the previous capital program, we had to do the study as part of the back stuff for the previous program. So we did the study. It was to just study the feasibility of can it be reactivated. The answer is yes. It's a lot of money.
Oh yeah, well,
So it's like $6
It's
billion for the
$6 billion
railroad,
for the railroad,
$8 billion
for the city.
In addition to that, because of what's going on with the airport, we also explored making a one-seat wide for JFK. Adding that to it, that's another additional $12 billion. That would be, and a lot of environmental issues with wetlands and everything else.
So the group that's been really pushing for the reactivation is having an event tonight. Interestingly enough, they're doing a happy hour and conversation about to learn more about the study, to rejoice, I guess, to toast its reemergence as a conversation. I mentioned in politics, one of the lead opponents is running for Queensborough president. So, Elizabeth Colley.
We're talking about two different things.
Oh, we're talking about two different things. Okay.
That was the Lower Montauk. That was
Well,
her-
right. That's Lower Montauk. Right. So this is. Yeah,
This is a far Rockaway
the-
Beach
right.
branch. Yeah.
Right. So
The-
where does Leroy stand on this?
I don't know if I never heard him state a position on it. It's not really his district. It's really Seminole and Temple Amato and Senator Dabo. That's their district, and the Rockaways kind of. So
Doesn't it come up though into the areas of Queens that could benefit from rail of some kind?
well, it's like 3 or 4 different factions. So the people in Regal Park area, in that abandoned right-of-ways, in people's backyards. Some of them are encroaching. They have this, undeveloped, unused stuff, so they like it that
they
way.
just
So
take advantage. Yeah, there's
so they don't want anything changing.
just tomato gardens and stuff.
Some people want it to be a park.
Yeah.
Some people want it to be rail. Some people want it to be put the rail on the ground and put the park above.
And in doing it, the time savings, like, has that stuff been looked at on what is it?
Yes.
Just thinking, in doing it, what the time savings are for how many people by
So
going
they
forward
released
with
something
it.
the other
That's
day,
just-
No, it's in there. So the whole thing is available on the MTA website. The whole study.
Oh, okay.
It's like
I'll take a
25
look.
minutes. If it was a railroad from Howard Beach.
to Penn. I think
Penn
it was
is 25
30,
minutes.
20
35
minute
minutes.
time savings.
And then 45 minutes
No, that's
to
the
the
time
subway.
of travel.
Oh, that's, I was gonna say, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And the subway is like 40,
Under this,
45 minutes
Freedom.
to go.
And what's the time travel now without it?
Oh, from Howard Beach?
Yeah.
If you
Well,
took
can
the A
anyone
train,
hear me?
forget about it.
That's
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Here's our resident from the neighborhood.
it.
Christopher Napoli. I
Yeah.
charge admission.
Yeah, Matt, what kind of time frames you talking about coming from Howard Beach if you're taking the A train?
Yeah, I know. I've been listening to it. I've been trying to hear. I'm trying to hear. Is that you speaking or someone else other than you and have to speaking to her?
Ellen speaks softly.
Oh, I was just wondering how, like Jerry said, how long it takes.
Time frames.
Time frame. Howard Beach to Penn. I don't know, doing the same travel points, Midtown.
Yeah, it's about an hour.
Yeah, for now.
Give it take. I just wanted to I have with me Rick Horan from the Queens Rail Organization. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Rick.
Hector.
Hey, Rick.
I brought him, but I just happened to run into him, so I thought it'd be okay if he listens in. We wanted
That's just
to
having
hear
the event.
about we would like to learn more about this study. I've been waiting to hear about it. The Howard Beach by subway into, like, say, 34th Street during the express time is about an hour, give or take maybe 50 minutes, subject to the traffic levels. Because at one point, bear in mind, it shares tracks with the C as well as the E. So at one point, whether it goes local or not.
I don't think it's ever less than an hour, though.
You know,
No, okay.
but according to what, I haven't read the study yet, but from what I understand, it's saying it's 25 minutes with the Long Island Railroad, and then it says supposedly 45 minutes with the subway. I'm assuming that that's a local train, not an express. But, again, I have to read this further. My main question is what's the methodology behind the ridership figures?
Excellent question.
So one of the findings is that we didn't find that there's going to be a lot of new riders. It's just really riders shifting from, if you did a railroad connection, people that are taking the subway will switch, or
It was like 11,000, right,
Yeah.
for us on railroad, and much more.
Right, that's what I'm trying to understand. I understand that the difference is probably because it's going to be obviously a totally different fare structure, but I'm just trying to understand where they came up with 11,000 for Long Island Railroad ridership, and what was it, about 47,000 for the subways. So, so that's one thing. And was there any discussion of what the fare structure is going to be, or how that's going to work if Long Island Railroad does become the operational entity?
no. This was strictly just a feasibility.
Okay, so then it comes down to, like I was saying, it goes back to what's the methodology, because the numbers could be higher for Long Island Railroad, could also be higher for the subway too.
Well, I think they were just figuring on the cost, Matt, of what it would cost to build it. They weren't figuring on the operational end of it. I mean, they'd have to decide who they're going to go with, if it's going to be the railroad or New York Transit, and then they can crunch the numbers on the revenue side of it.
But what the fare would be would directly affect the ridership.
Well, if it's a subway, then the fare is the fare.
Before there's a fare, somebody needs to figure out how they're going to pay for this.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's a huge.
Well, no, but I guess the point is that the cheaper the fare, the likelihood that the ridership would be greater.
Or subject to the package deal if there's a package deal on the table.
Well, what
In other
are
words,
the
the
next
more
steps? Why don't we figure out what the next steps are first? Now that the report's been received,
I
and
mean,
now what happens?
As far as the railroad transit or MTA is concerned, like we did our part. We did the study. That's what we were required to do.
Hey, Hector, quick question. Why was the study delayed for over a year?
We just released it.
Right, but the date of it is September 21st, 2018.
I already answered that before. Yeah, I know you don't like the answer, but I don't have a different answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
I've told you in our different discussions in the past.
No, but the report was done on the 21st of September last year. Why wasn't it released then?
We were reviewing it.
Redoing it?
Reviewing it.
Review? Okay, well, all right, thank you. I don't want to belabor it, but usually then it would have a date on it after the review, not before.
Okay, sorry guys, but I think we're getting to, we promised to be out by 6. Can you go over the cab issue that we discussed way back? Any movement on that as to the fact that the railroad has certain cab companies that are allowed at the stations, and in fact there's no rules and regulations governing these cabs? And remember we discussed, you guys were looking into that, because I told you my experience. We pulled into the cab assigned to that station, and they had no cabs, no drivers. They said it would be at least an hour and a half before a cab came. Why are they getting the monopoly of using the train station for not providing enough cabs? We were talking about that, remember?
No,
So what's the procedure? It's not a town thing, because they're taking spots on the railroad. It says that, for cabs. If you have it, fine. I just want to. If not, I want to just reissue that again as to what is the policy, and because I don't think riders are being serviced very well. They're being told to get Ubers, and meanwhile these cabs are using up spots and spaces and signs and being directed to go there.
I've had cab companies tell me to call whenever, that they can't promise anybody.
Right. Then they shouldn't get the spots at the stations and be the
Well, in
station.
Hicksville on the east end, they have spots. Oyster rides don't put that in. It's funny because when I was there today, they have 20 some odd spots that are reserved for them with their makeshift signs, which I think are BS and not town approved, that they put there just for their taxi company. But there was only 2 taxis in all of those spots. Meanwhile, people driving around looking for spots.
Wow.
Well, that's why we've
There's
been
2 cabs
asking.
there.
That's why-
Really?
And I'm sure they
And
all
they have
weren't
how many
out.
spots?
There's got to be 20 of them.
Oh my gosh.
Well, normally I think we just lease out spots for cab companies, sometimes for them to store the cabs or park, or they rent out the booths
Those
to
aren't
operate.
railroad spots, though. Those are
But there are
town of
there,
Oyster
there
Bay.
are ones that there are railroad spots. So I just want to know. Again, I've been asking, what is the policy? We need to look at it. If they're going to get the spot, then they have to provide better service for the riders. If not, give up the spots and
Or why do you have so many spots and not as many cars to offer?
Is it good to
Giving
do
you
it
10
based on
spots.
a particular station to get the answer about that particular station that can shed light on maybe stations beyond that? But if it's been hard to get an answer, just getting it on the one station to understand what's happening there would
Well, I
be a
don't know, 'cause
starting point.
We asked, we haven't got a response. So I'm asking if there's a possibility. Is there a difficulty, or is it just? I don't know.
No, I mean, we don't, I mean, for us, it's just a real estate deal in terms of somebody can rent if they can rent a parking space to be able to park at a spot, or if we have a taxi booth, they have a right to lease that booth.
So we basically, the railroad just leases it to them and doesn't put requirements in
We're
the
not-
service.
We're not
That should be
regulating.
returned.
We don't regulate the taxis,
But-
so there is no policy about regulating the taxis or what they're required.
Right, but if it is a lease, it should be, we're leasing it to you, but this is what you need to do
But
with
I think
that
they're
space.
they're
Not
leased
just
out of
lease it and-
headquarters.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you what.
No,
our
but I
lease is
thi-
just strictly
So that-
addressed.
But it's not
That's what we're asking that should
LIRR,
be
it's
looked at.
headquarters. It's out of the real estate department, right?
Yes.
It does the leasing. So I think directing
So
our
we should ask
question
for
to
what
MTA
does
Real
the lease-
Estate,
yeah.
and because
What does
lately
the
they've
lease
been working
stipulate?
very hard on improving contracts out of there and that sort of thing. So I think bringing it to the attention of LIRR Real Estate at headquarters might be more productive, because that's a
Right, this
different
is
group.
what we're seeing. What does
Yeah.
the lease stipulate? I think that's what needs to be answered.
Yeah.
And I think even for the ones that are not railroad owned, as a inquiry for the commuters, Hicksville for example, why not ask the town, what are your requirements? You're leasing out these spaces and you're giving up spaces that our commuters want to
I think the
use.
first
We know,
First step is do the letter, ask what stations they are leasing out, and then we'll
And
follow
what is
up,
the
follow up,
return?
Then the follow-up will be the ones that they're not. We can see which towns are doing it. But they have the first.
but in that
list.
ones that we own, or the railroad,
I mean,
what is there anything in the lease on what
Right.
service
What I'm
they're
saying
supposed to
is
provide?
then we
with
go to
that?
the towns. Once we get the list of
Yes.
which ones they control,
Then we could go.
then we'll know which
there.
ones they don't.
But the letter should be which ones do you own and what are the requirements for return service from these.
I mean, I'll
taxi
get the
cab
you don't need a let. I'll get the list of. I'll get a list of how many leases we have, taxi leases, where there's parking versus or to up. I'll get you that.
Because obviously the argument is if they're not really servicing the riders, then
Well,
give up the space because commuters
Or
can use that.
or get a
They're not-
different company.
yeah.
Or let the riders have the spot. I mean, if you're gonna, the purpose is going to be able to just call Uber, then you don't need to be using up spots.
Yeah. There's
Well,
also
I know you make money from the lease. I get it.
Or
but it's gotta
make it a
serve the
lift
rider.
drop off pickup something like it could be utilized.
But that's the
in a
thing, if
different
there's
way.
not a real
Modernize
parking
it. Like,
Yeah.
program
people aren't
in
taking
place.
cabs. They want so.
to make the best
Well,
use of
I
the
think-
I prefer a
space.
cab if it's there waiting.
I mean,
Right.
they're providing. I
do.
think the cabs are providing a service. The question is like at a peak time, do they have like 100 cabs to? No, you have to wait. I guess to get.
Well, it also depends on the company, because some of them do their shift change at 6 p.m.
But it is station to station.
9:15 this morning
I've
at
spoken to the
Hicksville.
company. Their
There was
their
two
issue
cars.
is always, listen, they pay nothing. The cabs are crap, and so they can't get drivers. If that's the case, I mean, whatever the reasons, then they shouldn't be using up those spaces.
But that's because the
Cab
expense of the
drivers have
cabs on
converted
Long
themselves to
Island are
become
so
Uber
expensive.
It's more lucrative.
There's not a what's that?
It depends.
At a
If you're
but
gonna lease it out to them,
out
then you could charge.
out in Suffolk County. They're, I mean, per mile, they're very high prices.
Oh,
The
a lot of them
taxis.
don't charge per
Which one?
mile.
Which one?
And
Suffolk.
Suffolk.
They're
They're
zoned.
zones.
They're just, they
It's
just
zoned.
make it up as they go along.
But they're more expensive than, again, Metro North territory, for how far you're going. If it's zoned or whatever, but all along the right of way, everything is done by zones by every cab company.
It's not a
Everybody's,
meter.
there's no standard. There's no standard.
not a
Give you
standard,
the history
yeah,
of it.
that's-
We had done this years ago. And we had helped get a taxi and limousine commission started, something which didn't exist before.
Wow,
There
that's
is one
great,
now.
yeah.
But they still don't regulate the cabs
Yeah.
pricing because they go through different towns.
That's what,
And that's the one, they said
that's
as
where
a
it-
county, they can't regulate the towns. So that's the zoning is because it goes through, you may go through 4 towns and you get to someone's house. So they don't
Right,
that's-
which
our
isn't
next step was to try to
dissimilar.
push that, but the first step was to get one,
yeah.
which we didn't have.
Huh.
But that's how it goes by. It goes by, where it's not time. It's
Yeah.
not, it's
Yeah.
you going through.
Okay.
Right, and we can go on the same cab to the same place on different days. It's just sort of like, oh, this is what it is today. That's what it is.
But
Wow.
I think there's nothing more frustrating than coming out to a cab stand and there's nothing there.
There's nothing there, right?
And you're right at the, come off the train and then it's not, it's just, it's an angry feeling for people. It's bad enough that the waiting room is closed at 2 o'clock because they also want to be outside with no cab.
And no canopy.
No
canopy.
In the rain
and
and the wind.
No vendor to buy
The
pop.
waiting room was locked this morning in Hicksville at 9:15, which made no sense. One of them.
Street level or the platform?
Platform. Made no sense why. I mean,
At what station?
Hicksville.
Heck, yeah.
Track to the east end one.
It's not very clear.
I was looking inside, like, was there
Something
that
happened
that put it
that-
out of service, but then put a sign saying why it's out of service. But
I've got 2 more
I
things.
just went in the other one.
2 more things.